Scuba Obsessed is the weekly podcast. We talk about all things scuba diving, from cool new gear to places to dive and scuba news. Scuba Obsessed episode 542 is recorded live July 21st, 2022. Welcome. Yeah. Welcome back to Scuba Obsessed. I'm Darren Gilson, coming to you from the southwest side of the great state of Michigan, where we're dodging lightning bolts. Joining me this week, we have Mac, the dive mentor. How you doing today, Mac?
I'm doing pretty good, dodging those lightning bolts.
Yeah, they had a little bit of excitement earlier. You were having a hard time keeping an internet connection. I wouldn't be surprised if mine kind of fades in and out, but it may have gone north of me, which would have been about where you were at. So it was at one point I could see blue sky and sun. But it was black all the way around, so. Boy, July. We're here at the end. Hard to believe it.
I can't believe it, yeah.
I know. No time.
2/3 down and it'll be August. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah, we can call this the Old Men Podcast, talk about time moving fast, so.
We got to get you in the water for fall again.
I'm looking at my schedule. Yeah. We want to cover what's been keeping me busy? Maybe I'll...
Well, let's see, robotics is not, right?
Wrong.
Are you still doing that right now?
Well, here's the thing. So I'm going to share a photo. I was going to try and share a photo. Why is that photo not showing up? Yeah. Lovely watching me upload photos, but I'm gonna... Oh, it's because the internet's off on my phone. That'll do it. Don't give the phone any internet. So here's the photo, quarter done, half done. Be up here in just a second, but because we've got a new build site. Well, you knew the Athletic and Performing Arts Center. Maybe we should start with that. So this is probably not...
Talking about the St. Joe?
No, Berrien Springs. That new big building, $16 million project that they're putting in. So here's the new gym. That was the one I think I told you did I tell you last week that it was being held up because they had like a air conditioning issue?
Wow.
So here's I was in measuring it because we're going to be holding a robotics event there this next year, but all brand new. I don't even think there's been a tennis shoe on the floor other than a few of us walking around. But smells really...
Who paid for this?
It's a bond. We approved a bond this year for it. $16 million.
Wow.
See, Berrien Springs is well off financially. And why? Because we manage the remote education for about a dozen different school systems throughout the state. So the schools are required by Michigan state law that everybody deserves an education. And some schools feel it's too much for them to manage it themselves, so they take a certain part of their population. They say, Berrien Springs, you do it. There are more people who graduate the Berrien Springs diploma than actually physically go to the Berrien Springs. An average class in Berrien Springs is going to be about 110, 120 students. Berrien Springs probably graduates about 600 to 1,000 students a year. So,
holy fuck, I did not know that.
Yeah, so Berrien Springs gets all that money from the state for all those students, and it costs them some money. They usually, in each area where they're doing a school, they rent a facility. Sometimes it's old mall spaces or old commercial spaces. They hire teachers. Part of the classes are virtual, some are in person. Some in the Upper Peninsula, some on the east side of the state, but that has given Berrien Springs a lot of extra money to put into its own school program. So what they did is they had a bond, they had a millage that they could have renewed, and that's what most towns did. Well, what Berrien Springs did is they let it expire and then did the bond. And the thing is, Berrien Springs, well, they probably couldn't have paid for this all with cash. They probably could have done it in phases. But when you get over a certain size, it's actually illegal by state law for the school to pay for it. It has to be done with a bond. So you cannot build a
school has got money. I don't understand that.
Yep. So what Berrien Springs is going to do is they're issuing the bond. Now that it's complete and the bond starts getting repaid, Berrien Springs will pay the bond off early, and then they will go for their next project. The next project is a brand new high school. So, but the reason why this comes in, and this is just a gym. They got a beautiful performing arts center, a theater, weightlifting room, band room, choir room, all in that facility. But what that means is that the robotics area, we're meeting in a place called Fabinweld, which is one of our major sponsors. Certainly appreciated for the space that they give us. The challenge is it's just that it's an industrial plant and it's not there to school. So now that the band is all moved in a new performing arts center, we are moving into the band room.
So you won't be sharing time there at St. Joe?
Sharing time at St. Joe? What do you mean by that?
Well, I thought you were at St. Joe quite a bit.
No, we only go to St. Joe for there's a St. Joe event, which is competition, which is 3 days. So we go for that, but we don't use their robotics center. That's their own. We had our own, but it was off campus in a industrial. So we've been working on getting this, and we finally got approval to move in this morning. So that's what I've been doing, and we've been preparing for this. So what you're seeing here is the band room. We're setting up our pit structure. So this will be the next I say the next few weeks, but we've got to organize all this.
So are you part of the school or something?
Well, the robotics program is part of the school. I'm actually a school staff. In addition to my full-time job, I'm also the head coach, which is a paid position. So, we've not been in the school. That's been a challenge. There's been no spot for us. So we've taken the new band room. It's got nice high ceilings. It's not quite as big as we need, but it's about the same size volume-wise as what we've had. And we're hoping to pick up more students and members just through the proximity. But that's been taking a lot of time. I mean, robotics in general. And last year, because I had a new assistant coach, we went all through the summer trying to get the program all set up and going and him into it. This summer, we actually were planning on taking all of July off, but we were supposed to be in here in the middle of May, but we just got permission today, which is July 21st. So, yeah. So we're excited. And I kind of feel like, even though it won't, we're eventually going to, when they build a new high school, we're hoping to have a new place in there. But the high school build I put is probably at least 15 years off would be my guess. Unless somebody gets antsy. But let's go ahead and talk about some scuba diving. So we got scuba in the news. First one you have up here is a recall. Aqualung is recalling the i330R scuba diving computer due to injury and drowning hazard. The recalled diving computers can fail to adjust the user's altitude and display incorrect calculations, or sea level dive times at altitude exceeding 3,000 feet, posing injury, decompressive sickness, and drowning hazard. So the date is today, July 21st, 2022. They expect there's about 16,000 units in this recall. Here we'll show the back of the dive computer, i330R. So that's what it looks like, made in Taiwan.
Did they contact everybody who bought one?
Well, the only way they can contact you if you bought one is if you put in the warranty card. So this is on the...
That's correct, which if you don't, then you're really stupid, I suppose.
So
how else do they notify people besides a warranty card? This here, generic
this is
announcement?
Well, this announcement's on the Consumer Product Safety Commission. So that's where so that's the website. And then there's press releases, but, you know.
How many people actually hear about these who have bought those gear?
I would probably say less than 10%. I'm sure somebody, it's probably a stat. And this probably goes for everything. Vehicles, anything that can get recalled.
Well, I do a warranty card on anything that has a warranty.
The reason why I don't, and this is a fault of the industry, I don't want the spam and the invasiveness of them buying and mining my data. That's why I don't. I paid for the product because I put in a warranty card doesn't mean that you can sell my name and my information. So and I'm not saying that Aqualung does this, but I wouldn't be surprised. But if I put that warranty card in, then there's a potential that they sell it to another, dive, travel vacation plans. If you bought a diving computer, odds are you're a diver. So that is valuable information, that contact information. So that's why I never do a warranty card.
I get a lot of stuff from GE because I bought a GE product. Again, I get it and I go click and it's gone.
Yeah.
At least I saw it if I needed it.
Yeah. So I hear. I usually don't do this. It's kind of dangerous, but we're going to do it here. This is my mailbox. Just one of my email accounts. I have probably a dozen. My inbox has 32,570 unread emails.
32,000?
32,000. And then there's...
I believe some of those could be important, like IRS says, I'm coming to get you Friday or something like that.
IRS sends you a certified letter. They don't email you. I do have filters on for stuff I want, and I have filters on for stuff I don't want. And this is just Gmail. My Hotmail, which I won't put on here. But that's probably, let me see, what one am I showing now? Okay. Good. My Hotmail account. See, here's Google trying to sell me a phone. My Hotmail account, I probably have even more than that. I have to apologize to anybody who sent anything to any of my Scuba obsessed email accounts. Because those are, did you know you can buy erectile dysfunction medicine over the internet?
Unless I know something I don't. I've been getting a lot of those lately too.
Yeah. Without a prescription, discreet packaging. So I'm told. But yeah, it's just about useless. And then I build a lot of websites, and every website you have a domain, and I am inundated. My phone at work, if I don't know who you are, I don't even answer it. So I answer internal mails, phone calls. I answer phone calls for my customers. Everybody else is trying to sell me something. And when you're in the commercial world, and if they buy something for you, it's 6 figures typically. You're a big target to them. So it's brutal. It's like I feel like I spend a quarter of my day just dodging people who want my time. Oh, It's I don't know if I should apologize or what, but that's why I don't. And the thing is, I did an experiment, and this was probably 15, 20 years ago, where, you know, all those unsubscribed links. It says, click here if you don't want anymore. For every one I clicked, I got 2 more emails from a different list that I had never subscribed to. So the list I unsubscribed from didn't send me stuff, but somehow somebody else in their network conveniently had my email and had me registered. So yeah, spam is out of control. So yeah, the misery of Darren and computers. So here's the next article. Wow, this isn't positive. Mersing's missing scuba diver resort fined 5,000 RM. Was this Thailand? Is that where RM is?
Yeah, I believe that one is.
The company and resort involved in an incident where 4 foreign divers went missing in April, been slapped with a 5,000 fine. Mersing Malaysia Maritime Enforcement Agency, MMEA Director, Commander Maritime, we'll call him KNM, said winter snow standard SDN BHD was charged under Rule 12 of Boating Rules 1953 with operating without adequate crew as required by the conditions set by port officer. The company also provides boat services for divers. I wonder if her name is just a translation. You know, it's like, you know, in their culture, the name's, you know, very beautiful and means something, but you translate it to what it means in English, and it doesn't quite come out the same. He said that the representatives of the company pleaded guilty in magistrate's court on the Thursday, June 23rd, when the charge was read before the magistrate. The company was not represented by any lawyer. It paid the fine. Kong Sangal. Their dive master, Christine Gordon, 35, from Norway. British national Adrian Peter Chester, 46. His Dutch national son, Nathan Ries Chester, 14. French woman, Alexa Alexandra Molina, 18. Only Grodin, Adrian, Molina were found. Oh, that's so sad. Adrian told the Malaysian authorities that his son... Yeah.
They paid $1,500 to $1,700 American for basically his poor operation that resulted in several drownings.
Adrian told the Malaysian authorities his son did not make it and died after becoming too weak, and his body was likely to have drifted in Indonesian waters. Commander said the investigation revealed the boat was operating without adequate crew as required by the port officer under the Merchant Shipping Act of 1952. Wow, that is sad. And really outrageous that that's all that they got. I mean, they weren't represented, they pled guilty, and they paid a small fine.
Yep. Just take another charter out and make their money back.
Okay. Out of the UK, cargo vessel that sank 7 centuries ago has been declared the oldest shipwreck in English history. Because everything that sank before you can't call a shipwreck. I'm assuming it means the oldest one they found. The ship was carrying marble for gravestones and other items when it sank in the 13th century, likely during the reign of Henry III. According to BBC, the wreck was first discovered in 2020 by a diver named Trevor Small of Rocket Charter's diving group. I discovered what I believe to be an undetected wreck, said Small. Recent storms had revealed something unknown in the seabed. I was granted permission to dive the wreck. God, that's so bizarre to be granted permission. I found something. Can I pretty please go down and take a peek at it? Small reported to find that Bournemouth University archaeologists who investigated the site, to their delight, they found the wreck was in remarkably good condition and still filled with an ancient cargo. According to Guardian, their excavation revealed exceptional preserved timber, as well as unworked Purbeck marble. The Daily Mail also reports the wreck was dubbed the mortar shipwreck because it contained mortar bowls used for grinding grain into flour. This is a really important discovery. Elfin Maria said, the ship was in pristine condition and could have floated again. No, I made that up. This is a ship loaded with cargo on its way out somewhere. It's a cliche, but it's a time capsule. At least she admitted it. This is a ship doing exactly what it was intended to do, and we can learn so much from it. That's some nice artifacts there.
Mm-hmm.
According to
that heavy stone, it must have sank like a rock.
Oh. According to Guardian, one of the ship treasures of preserved timbers is a mortar shipwreck, the oldest known shipwreck in England, with a hull surviving, so that's the qualifier. A combination of low oxygenated water, sand, and stones have helped preserve the ship. Tom Cousins, a maritime archaeologist, explained, according to the BBC. Archaeologists examined the wood and found that the timber came from Irish oak. An examination of tree rings additionally revealed that the wood came from a tree cut down between 1242 and 1265, or during the reign of King Henry III. That makes the ship a unique find. Previously, no wrecks from between the 11th and 14th century have been discovered in English waters. The rest is history. I found one of the oldest shipwrecks in England. Inside the ship, archaeologists found even more treasure alongside kitchen objects like mortar bowls. Divers also found Purbeck marble gravestone slabs. The slabs displayed a different kind of cross design, which according to Guardian are similar to the designs found in churches of the same era. Our publication also notes archaeologists previously thought the designs came from different periods. Regardless, the stone slabs, mortar bowls, and ships itself tell a stunning story about seafaring industry in 13th century England. This is evidence of industry. They're quarrying the stones, carving them, and dressing them. It shows that these are really desirable products being exported far and wide, all around the coast of England, the Ireland, and to the continent. This gives us a really interesting indication it's not just the stones that were desirable, it's the skills of local craftsmen. Here, a diver, they have a photo of a diver using a flashlight to examine one of the stones. According to The Guardian and the BBC, 2 other ships were also given protection status alongside the mortar shipwreck. Though they're from the 16th and 17th centuries, the wrecks are still considered exceptionally rare. Yeah, those are brand new. Both discovered in the Isle of Wight. The one contains lead ingots, while the others contain cannons. All 3 paint a facade portrait of life and death in England over the centuries, but archaeologists are especially thrilled about the mortar shipwreck, the oldest known wreck ever found in English waters. Very few 750-year-old ships remain for us to be able to see today, and we're extremely lucky to have discovered an example this as rare as this.
Did you say how deep that was?
They did not, but I'm guessing by the gear and the light, it's not terribly deep.
Which is always interesting that it took so long to find it.
Yeah. Yeah, look at those slabs. And it's probably without those slabs, nobody would ever have noticed it.
Or I should say tombstones.
Gravestones, yep.
Yeah.
Where am I missing? I had some others here. We had some shark stories. I don't know where those went to. Yeah, where'd my shark story go? It's Shark Week somewhere. Kind of like 5 o'clock somewhere, we got sharks.
On TV for the last 3 weeks. Little Shark Month.
For some reason, I have just pretty much zoned out Discovery, because we have the Discovery Plus streaming. They kind of highlighted it, but Some of them aren't shark stuff. It's like they're kind of stretching some of it. Have you been watching them?
My wife has. I always like it how they're not being dangerous. It's really good to feed them. And then later on today, I'm looking at the one the last 2 days, is feeding sharks in the Bahamas or have increased the number of fatalities and or injuries because they get so used to people feeding them. They like their hands and legs now.
Well, yeah. They're associating humans' limbs with food.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time with this article for some reason. Okay, here we go. Probably user error somewhere. Do these have happy endings? Probably not.
I don't think any of the ones I gave you have happy endings.
We should have this as depressing story of the week.
We're continuing to have depressing stories.
So here we go. We'll fade into this one. Oh. A few too many windows. Hey, Dave Marby's in the chat room saying he's back. Nice to have you back, Dave. We missed you. So this article, if I got it up there, do you see the one? It says shark kills 2 women hours apart near resort in Egypt's Red Sea. Officials said Sunday. The video showed Friday's horrific attack. We've got links in the show note if you want to watch. We're not going to stream it here. Video showed Friday's horrific attack. One of the victims, a 68-year-old Austrian with an onlooker, acknowledged bluntly she's going to effing die. The woman identified as Elizabeth Sauer and a Romanian lady in her 40s were separately found mutilated less than half a mile away from each other and near the populated tourist area of Shalshish. Sauer said swimming near the resort when the Mako shark struck, ripping off one of her arms and legs, the outlet said. The video showed her swimming away from the shark and towards tourists who threw her a flotation device as the water filled with blood. Tourists complained the lack of lifeguards during the horror. Yeah, you never complain about lack of lifeguards until you need them. Once she was brought to safety, their attempts to resuscitate her, but was taken to the hospital and died. Reuters told Reuters that Sauer had been living in Egypt for 5 years with her Egyptian husband. Austrian foreign minister confirmed AFP the death of the Austrian citizen in Egypt without providing further details. Identity of a second victim is still unconfirmed. Red Sea Governor Emil Hanafi ordered the closure of all beaches in the area for 3 days after the attacks. Is that kind of like we're not allowed to go in the water 20 minutes after lunch? You don't want to feed the sharks within 3 days of an attack? Because, they'll get indigestion if they eat too frequently.
Sense, though, if you've got a rogue,
right?
You got a rogue shark out there taking care of your customers. But by the same token, I don't think you'd have to tell me that.
Right.
I think I would stay away anyway.
Well, you need to do is have like at work where they have, we've been 17 days without a workplace injury. We've been 0 days without a shark attack fatality. And you post that up. You're providing correct information. They can make their own decisions. Shark attacks are considered rare in most of the areas, having increasingly occurred in recent years. 12-year-old Ukrainian male tourist lost his arm and leg in an attack in 2020. In 2018, a Czech tourist was killed by a shark off Red Sea Beach. A similar attack killed a German tourist in 2015. In 2010, a spate of 5 attacks in 5 days, unusually close to the shore of tourist hotspot Sharm el-Sheikh, killed 1 German and injured 4 other foreign tourists. I think the idea, depending on the shark species, if they know what it is, they're migratory, so they're not going to hang around. And if you move the food out of the water.
Well, that one they said was a mako.
I don't think makos don't seem to be ones that we hear about frequently.
Yeah, they don't bite and tell. They just fight and run away.
Let's see. We got another shark attack. What's more sad than a second one? Don't mean to laugh at this. Blood in the water shark attack map shows 6 dead and 33 mauled in 2022 so far, as experts issue chilling warning. This is July 9th article from the U.S. Sun. At least 6 people have been savaged to death by sharks so far this year as beasts prowl the waters worldwide. The seas around the globe have turned red with 39 attacks reported since the start of January, as the mighty sea creatures rip off limbs and sink their jaws into unsuspecting swimmers. Now, I notice they have a category here. They got a chart. They've got provoked and unprovoked. Maybe they'll say what the difference is. Some 26 men and 13 women, including an 8-year-old girl, have been subject to the wrath of shark this year. 6 of the 39 recorded shark attacks have been fatal, with 2 deaths reported in Egypt, 1 in New South Wales, Mexico, Colombia, and South Africa. Of the 33 non-fatal attacks around the world, 3 have been provoked. But despite the number of attacks, fatalities, shark attacks worldwide remain rare. This month, 2 women were killed in separate shark attacks within 600 meters of each other in Egypt. Several beaches were shut down in Egypt's Red Sea coast after the 2 women, 1 Australian, 1 Romanian, died. 68-year-old woman from the Prilo region of Austria who was on holiday in Egypt died on July 1st after losing an arm and a leg in the attack while swimming in the sea. Elizabeth Sauer told her husband she was just going to be back into the water for a moment shortly before the fatal incident. Egypt authorities said mako shark was responsible for the deaths. After just 2 days after, a Romanian woman was found dead after she was attacked as well. Experts had warned it could be the same animal that butchered both swimmers. Following the double deaths in Egypt, I thought they were in the same day. Here it sounds like a couple days apart.
Couple of days apart.
Yeah, thought to be both of the jaws of mako shark. Experts warned that illegal fishing and bait continue to be tossed in the water can encourage attacks. Yeah, chumming and all this, I understand. You want to pay for the tour and get it, but not sure it's a good idea. You know, one of the rules is don't look like food and don't be associated with food.
One of the items that was on Shark Week also talked about that's hard to enforce, especially in the Bahamas, which is a haven for people who like to have the shark dives. And they had many, many pictures of places I would not be with them feeding the sharks. And it's like, I swear there are dozens swimming in circles around you. And then the guy puts his hands out with a fish and comes it's like, maybe put it on a stick and put it out there, but not my hand.
I've been bit by my dogs. I've been bit by my dogs and my horses feeding them. What makes me think that a wild shark, is going to be any better at that?
Yeah. But they were talking, the reason it's hard to stop it down there is because it was a multi-million-dollar industry.
Oh, it's huge.
Because people pay big bucks to either go with the sharks or in the shark cage.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I enjoyed watching the shows. I remember as a kid, Jacques Cousteau in the shark cage. You know, they would be throwing buckets of blood and fish in the water to get the great wakes to come up the cage, and they're, you know, chewing on the bars. But I mean, You really have to look broadly in all the numbers to know how much it is. Plus, we're terrible at understanding risk. You know, per hour in the water, it's probably very, very low. But it's not good for you if you get bit.
Oh.
Yeah. They go some more detail. But I can tell you one place where you won't get bitten by sharks. Lake Michigan. Come on in. The water's fine.
Well, you do know that you were recommended not to be diving in the river up towards Kalamazoo, don't you?
Yeah, for the alligators.
Yes,
I heard
two alligators.
We don't. Oh, two? I didn't know about the second one. I heard they called off. They were going to search for the alligator, and I heard they called. I don't know why they had a reserve. Is it? Yeah, because I think I probably read the same article you did, and it didn't quite make sense to me why.
Well, I know they've had a couple more bull sharks they found in Lake Michigan, but they always figure those came from the freighters going through the locks that the guys always like to toss out. So you can say, oh my God, there's a shark in the Great Lakes.
Yeah. Well, there was, it was in the first couple of years of the podcast where there was an old article where they had found I think it was a bull shark around Chicago at one point in time. But who's to say that isn't the same thing? Somebody playing a joke.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of on our theme of not the happiest news, we've got a follow-up or another article on the plastics. This time they're saying the Shipwreck provides real-world lab to study plastic degradation. Shipwreck for the benefit of science. In June 1993, the cargo ship HMS Hamada sustained severe damage in heavy seas above a coral reef off the coast of Egypt, broke in two and sunk. Fully loaded with plastic granules in the middle of the nature preserve, but the disaster also offered an opportunity. Some of the plastic pellets washed up on the beach, where the rest remained in the flooded holds of the wreck until today. This provided the first opportunities for researchers to conduct comparative studies on the degradation of the plastic pellets under vastly different conditions. It had previously been estimated it would take anywhere between several centuries and several millennia for the polyethylene, one of the most common plastics, to be completely degraded in the oceans. However, these figures are subject to considerable uncertainty because highly logical laboratory tests. Long-term studies on the degradation of plastic in the oceans have been lacking up to now because of other things. It is not possible to determine the precise age of the plastic waste. Two scientists lead a consortium that includes Scientific Diving Group and the Institute of Polymer Technology, the German Aerospace Center, and the Egyptian Cooperative Partner. In 2016, plastic pellets were initially collected from both the wreck during scientific dives on the beach. The consortium then examined these pellet samples using different methods. The microscopic, chemical, and mechanical tests quickly revealed major differences with regard to the degradation process. While the degradation of plastic pellets on the beach is already in full swing, the plastic pellets trapped in the wreck at 18 meters below the water show hardly any signs of degradation. I'm having a hard time. Degradation, as Baumer and Schnepf. The results of the Stuttgart study in this comparative to a better understanding of the influence of various environmental factors, such as UV radiation, high temperatures, large temperature difference in the aging of plastic, thereby providing more accurate knowledge of the degradation of plastics in the oceans. Sun is probably the biggest thing that breaks them apart. But the question is, what is it breaking it apart to? I've seen that. I've had some plastics that in a year they become brittle and just start to flake away.
The only experience I've had with that is the bag from Myers rips before I get home.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. Usually, like you get a little rip started and they like to go. I've also got some plastic barrels that was used for like an herbicide. And we've had those plastic barrels for 30 some years. And I mean, you can't, they still, they look like the same barrels I had when we first had them. I mean, they just keep going and going. So probably depends on the formulation. And then this one, I think we may know something about this article. Lake Michigan. This is reported by News Channel 3. Like lost shipwreck resurfaces in Lake Michigan nearly 200 years after sinking. A West Michigan couple believes they've located a once lost shipwreck in the shallow waters of Lake Michigan. Kevin Ailes and his wife Amy share a passion for preserving shipwrecks. My main focus is preservation, Ailes said, but in this process of preservation, we came across a lot of information which is quite intriguing to go find something. In the last decade, Kevin Ailes has located 4 shipwrecks once considered lost along the Great Lakes. He now has another wreck to add to the list. Ailes began researching the wreck of the Milwaukee, the ship that went down in a fierce winter storm near Saugatuck in November 1842. It's one of the earliest known shipwrecks along West Michigan lakeshore. Using historical accounts where the ship went down, Ailes used archived satellite imagery on Google Earth to scan the area of interest, water conditions, sun angles, and several other factors. At the time satellite imagery is captured plays a big role. An archived satellite image from March 2021 revealed just what Ailes is looking for, just a few hundred feet from the shoreline. I just couldn't believe it was there. Ailes said you can even see the bow pointing not straight at shore, but 45-degree angle from shore. With a new point of interest to investigate, the couple first visited the site by boat during spring 2022. Using a magnetometer and sonar on board, he verified what had been seen on the satellite scans. Every 1 or 2 feet, a detector would register a hit, and it matches up with the spikes which hold the ship together. Underwater images reveal what lies against the innermost sandbar along Saugatuck Dunes State Park shoreline where waves and sand cooperate. Clearly a keel. A little bit of ribs there. It's definitely a shipwreck. The dimensions match the Milwaukee 113-foot length, he added. While not much remains of the nearly 200-year-old vessel, the story behind its final resting place is quite a tale. According to information provided by the Saugatuck Douglas Historical Center, the Milwaukee had just loaded up with 400 to 500 bales of flour at the mouth of the Kalamazoo River when it set off at night on November 16, 1842. The Milwaukee and its crew would never make it to the destination of Buffalo, New York. The crew had allegedly objected to setting out of fear of a storm was brewing. Some of the accounts alluded to folklore from the period, mentioning several rats leaving the ship while previously docked in St. Joseph. The crew wanted to wait out the storm, but the captain believed the lake was going to ice up, so he didn't want to hang around any longer. According to the accounts of the day, there was a mutiny and a possible murder, Ailes said. Some newspapers would claim the crew allegedly turned on its own captain as the weather suddenly worsened. Temperatures plummeted, the wind shifted to the northwest, and the blizzard conditions quickly developed. The wind and harsh waves forced the Milwaukee into shallow sandbar not far from the shore. According to historical records, 6 of the 13 men survived while all others died. It's a reminder of how volatile and unpredictable life on the Great Lakes then, and how it was fortunate today to have forecasts that we do, said Eric, was that Golinek, where we have the legend of an entire town sitting below big sand dune, said Olivia Foster, an intern at the Saugatuck Douglas Historic Center. Foster had been studying one of Michigan's most famous ghost towns for a thesis. The mill town was established in 1837 along the northernmost bend of the Kalamazoo River near the mouth of Lake Michigan. It was never a chartered township with a real government or governing body, school, or church. The population was 200 to 500 at the time it was small. Singapore was established in 1837, making a settlement for only 6 years old. When the Milwaukee wrecked less than 2 miles away, the town eventually depleted its primary resource of lumber, causing inhabitants to slowly leave as sand enveloped what was left behind. Blizzard that wrecked the Milwaukee also set off a stretch of harsh winter weather, according to some historical accounts. They call it the harsh winter, or the hard winter of 1842, because the lack of food and just a difficult winter in general. When the ship sank, barrels of flour on board lost ashore not far from Singapore. This wonderful gift of flour to the beach, albeit rather highly paid for gift of flour, gave them supplies to get through the winter, Ale said, plus a significant amount of wine on there too, which I'm sure had a factor in that as well. Conservative estimates place that 6,000 shipwrecks across the Great Lakes. And then Kevin down here gives the actual GPS coordinates of the wreck.
He got all sorts of hell for that too. He has got calls from Texas, California, and it's my understanding that some of the individuals who are calling are archaeologists who are lamenting his revealing the GPS numbers.
Tough shit. That was kind of the whole point of many of the groups. So why is that wreck more important than the Havana?
And
or the Rockaway?
Wrecks in general. The wrecks in general is what they were talking about. So he's found 5 now, and he's got some really interesting leads on others.
Right. But here's the thing is, so they're saying nobody should dive on wrecks. Yeah, it's like, that's where I just want, let's get them on the program and just roast them. I mean,
well, they're saying that the divers will take items and paraphernalia, and just their anchoring on it will disturb it. Dragging an anchor will destroy it. And some of that is valid. But by the same token, what about the 2 wrecks that we dive in the St. Joe River? Actually, there's 3, but 2 that still got the keels to them, the ribs, the motor mounts. At what point are they going to go ahead and say, well, wait a minute, now you can't dive those either now?
Oh, no. You know, the reason why they're all worked up over it is because they need to make money on it. They make money by researching it and studying and being the first on. And if you're on it, then they're not. So.
Well, it's a typical item. Where this particular item is, I've researched it years ago, and it's like, well, it should be there. Went there, and damned if it was not 2 ships on top of each other and a third out in the middle. And they got rotten. They couldn't use them, put them on shore. They stripped them and let them sink. Yeah, I mean, sure, it's history, but
well, how about the
clamshell?
How about the ones that all marinas were doing, where, hey, you've got the boat, it's docked at the pier, the owner's going through hard times, he doesn't have money to deal with it, he's not paying his fee, they go tie the boat up to a post out in the river, and it just basically rots till it sinks. I mean, is that historic? I mean, it's really just trash.
It's trash now, and it may have some history, and it may have been interesting, but is it something that's worth saying, hey, nobody should dive it and get away from it?
I don't know.
And it'll be good until you want to put docks in there for the public to anchor their boats, and then they clamshell it. Well, that's okay then.
We'll have to have Kevin on to talk about it. I'd really like to hear the story about these guys giving him grief. It's like, shove it. You know what? I don't care. You go find it. You go look for it. I think maybe Kevin might have something to do with the preserve. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he did a post today on the club site.
Yeah.
So get a chance, you might want to read that.
I'll take a look at that. Yeah. Oh. And we're not advocating stripping wrecks. No. Anything other than gold bars you should leave. No comment, Mac?
No. I mean, I would leave it, of course.
Of course.
Did you know as a side note, that the intake tunnel for the waterworks that we dive sometimes, the one that sticks up about 30 feet, 20 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that's a live intake?
No. Now, I've never dove it, so I feel much better now not having dove it. But you said it's...
Well, I've been in it down at the bottom. I always hang on to the ladder real good in case somebody turns a pump on. But they refurbished that last year.
Oh.
And you don't refurbish something that's not active. So my suggestion would be is put the cap back on the top so nobody can walk through it again.
Should somebody maybe mention that? Say, you know, that the cap out there is not on? We thought it was abandoned. Well,
I assume since they refurbished it that it has been, but I haven't dove it in years.
Yeah. Well, I know we have... It's just, you have to kind of time it right if you're going to do it.
Yeah, it's right in the area where the perch fishermen like to go. But I have the exact coordinates if you want them. You can have them.
Yeah, I think I mean, I do. I always want all the coordinates, but all those photos, or most of those photos that we just showed, were all Kevin Ailes. I saw an article, and the caption said that it was Kevin Ailes, but then they said the photo was copyright AccuWeather. And I'm like, you jerks. That's not your copyright. How do you copyright something that's not yours?
Yeah.
Well, you know, just because, you know, he said we could use it, so now we're claiming it. No, you know, I don't think that works that way.
He did some aerial photography on the Green Bay.
Yes, I remember that.
You know, when they first found it, it had moved, and that sort of got borrowed by other people, with no credit given to him.
Yeah, and that's and hate to dredge up old stuff, but many times it's deliberate. It's like, yeah, oh well. That's a whole nother discussion too of people's vanity for recognition. Well, here's the last one we should have on the list for this week. I call this potentially some cool scuba gear. Research, and this is a PR piece, so understand that when you hear it. Research vessel completed by Delaware Bay Ship Building. Delaware Ship Building of Leesburg, New Jersey, recently delivered a 4A, New Jersey, with a 58-inch draft and a deadweight tonnage of 50,000. The new boat was designed, built, and commissioned to be the best shipwreck exploration vessel for a private client ever made, said Captain Rustin Casway, one of the research vessel's explorers managing partners. The vessel began with the owner's concept. The lines were developed by Mike Lamole of Lamole Naval Engineering and then put into 3D by Stefan Pollard of Specmar. The Explorer went from initial welding to completion in just under 12 months, currently engaged in shipwreck exploration on a weekly basis, including working with families to give them closure on the sinking of a submarine in 1920. What? They're giving families closure on the sinking of a shipwreck of a submarine in 1920.
102 years ago.
So 102 years ago.
The descendants thereof.
So they traumatically damaged and needed to... I know I just sound completely insensitive this episode, but it's like, is this writing or is this really... I mean, it'd be cool to know the story. I mean, I've got relatives, you know, that I don't know is it closure? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it just seems 102 years. You know, to me, I think a closure is like your parents or your children and you don't know what happened, and, you know, it disturbs you. But 102 years on, working with the U.S. Air Force to find a plane in 1962. Next year, we'll be working with some people in Italy on the Andrea Doria site. Explorer's main propulsion comes from twin Cummins diesel engines producing 670 horsepower at 2,300 RPMs each. Mains connect to an Acme 32-inch by 33-inch wheel through the ZFZ drives. and some radiation. Yeah, so bunch of specs. Important stuff. Gas tank's only 600 gallons, 100 gallons of water, and 14 gallons of hydraulic fluid. And some Garmin gear. And boat is USCG.
600 gallons times $5 is how much? 3,000?
Yeah. It is 6-pack license and was delivered in June. Doesn't 6-pack
nice boat if you can afford it.
6-pack, that I think that depends on what you're doing with it. I used to know all that when I was looking at getting my captain's license, but seems like it's been a long time now. Well, that does it for Scuba.
Nice looking boat, though.
Oh, that is a sharp looking boat. I mean, it's a right size. I mean, just look at the boat. It's got a compressor, and I think it had a, for dive tanks. The only thing I think that's missing that I would love to have, I've always wanted a moon pool. It does have a crane for lifting in and out.
Yeah.
And you may also want to have a like a dinghy off the back. I'm surprised it doesn't really have one, like a second boat.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not ridiculously large. That's what I was kind of surprised with the title. I was thinking, it was a 150-foot yacht, but pretty hefty.
Talking about boats, though, and the millionaire boats, 100 million. I saw one the other day. I'm going to send you the link to it. You know how much it cost to build it?
430 million.
$2.5 billion.
Okay. When you get into those are the billionaires trying to say, no, mine's bigger.
Well, this one here is also a submersible. It can go down to 1,000 feet. And you ought to see what it looks like. It is freaking, Captain Nemo would have that boat.
Did they actually complete it, or is that one of those?
No, this is completed.
Oh,
this guy builds these suckers. He's building a smaller one now. It's only $1.5 billion for the next one. But I'll send you pictures of it because it's freaking awesome to look at. But I just cannot imagine that much money. Who has that much money that you can build one?
When you get
and can you imagine the crew? Because they can stay down several months. It looks like a nuclear boat, and it did not go into detail on the propulsion system. But I can buy you a Russian sub though for less than 50 million.
So is this the one right here?
I don't think that's the submersible. Oh, that's the one. Those are something else. The future of yachting. So if it's bad on the surface, you just take it down and go for a while.
Well, during the nuclear blast, it's water acts as a good shielding.
Well, you can get away from the COVID.
Yeah. Though, if I ever get to where I have $10 billion, these guys need to look me up because I think I would play hard to get, but I'd be so into this. I mean, why not? Look at this. Why would you not have that? I'll take 2. A drag race. You could play chicken. Oh, look at that.
Well, the interior shots are just freaking awesome.
165 meters, beam is 16 meters, draft is 8.6, displacement's 10,000 tons, range approximately 1,500 kilometers, submerged endurance approximately 4 weeks submerged endurance. What's it powered with? Is that one of those Stirling engines? I'm going to guess.
I don't know. That's what it didn't say, because if it's below and it's staying there a couple of weeks, I can't believe you got that good electrical system on it.
Well, I mean,
I don't think it's nuke.
Well, some of these diesel electrics, I think France and Italy are both doing really well with those.
Yeah, but I'm not sure about the month.
Yeah, I know.
And you sure as hell don't want to let them going boom when you're 1,000 feet down.
Yep. So here's their fleet. They have the private submarines. They have the super yachts. And then they have the island, private floating habitat.
Oh, yeah, the island was fantastic.
Oh, man. Look at this.
Well, they're saying because you don't make land anymore, so you make your own.
Well, and then the thing is, I bet you most of these people, I mean, you're rich enough, you're probably not, you know, other than capturing people and torturing them, which you probably could do. Yeah, but look at that. It kind of has the construction almost of a offshore oil platform, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
That is cool.
And I'm sure the technology for anchoring and stuff is based on that. So if a storm comes up, you can always move your house. That's a hell of a houseboat, though.
Yeah. So I want this, and then I want the submarine. I don't know if I need the super yacht. If I got the submarine, I can come up. I mean, yeah, we're just drooling as we're watching this video of this. I mean, some of this is like wealth beyond wealth.
Yeah, but
it's like you have Putin as your butler.
What he's doing is he is spending his money so all these people can have jobs fabricating this. So it's not really selfish. He's making and helping the economy.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. What you'd rather do, have somebody just, money goes to work. Yeah. That's a whole discussion on economics.
Scrooge and just sit in the counting house counting his money, or you go out there and spend it, help the economy of the nations, and have a good time doing it.
Well, I know if I own one of the 100 subcontractors who get to work on this project, I'd be really excited.
I just wonder what the crew members get.
Well, yeah. Do the crew members, do you get access to any of this, or are you just kind of like stuck in a bunker? Yeah, see, there's the sub right there coming up to the... Well, the helipad, though. You have to have the helipad in the island. Okay, I gotta stop this. This is... Envy and desire is not a good thing. Oh. Okay. That does it for Scuba in the News. Kind of a wacky episode. So we had a dive club meeting this week.
Yes, we did.
Now that's when I was making plans and getting ready for the new robotics center. So how'd the meeting go?
Oh, we had good participation as usual. Instead of having El Presidente do a nice quiz at the end of it, everybody had a chance to make up one and bring, and actually Kirk brought one. It was 12 questions, and they were really very good and thought-provoking. And hopefully other people will follow the same line and bring their own diver quiz. Some of the questions, for example, is everybody knows what an 80 cubic foot tank is, but how much exactly, how many cubic foot is in that 80 cubic foot tank?
What do you mean,
If
cubic
you're
feet of
talking-
volume of the tank? Like if you cut the top off and filled it with water, how much is in it?
How much do you really have in an 80 cubic foot tank? And it's not 80 cubic foot. It's a little less.
Well, because you're supposed to leave 500 in it.
Like what is a wagon wheel in reference to regulators? That goes back to history for the double hose. Simple little questions such as, everybody knows sea hunt, correct? Who
Yeah.
was in sea hunt? And who was in sea hunt? What's this guy's name?
I can't remember.
Mike Nelson, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then it was, well, who exactly is Mike Nelson? Because everybody knows one thing or the other, but how many remembers Lloyd Bridges?
Yeah.
So some of those were quite interesting. Then it says, you're diving in salt water. The last time you dove was in Lake Michigan. And your meter is reading 66 feet. You didn't set your computer for salt water. What is your actual depth? Because you can compensate for salt water, the fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was, the other one is, you always hear about our tanks, but when somebody says, how much is 200 bars? 200 bars is how many PSI? Who knows? So it was a really challenging question, exam or quiz, and it was a lot of fun of what you thought you knew, but you didn't.
Right.
Or you knew about, but you didn't know exactly what it was.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. That happens all over where you've been using the term or you talk to it or you equivalate things to it, but you really don't know it. Yeah, because like an 80 cubic foot tank or an 80, you know, based on your breathing rate and conditions and depth, you can guess about how much time you're going to have before you're going to come up. But yeah.
But by the other token, they were saying an 80 steel tank has 80 cubic feet.
So the steel did, but the aluminum didn't.
Right. Do not. It was fun, entertaining, and it made you feel like, well, duh. I've been doing this for 30 years. Some of the answers or some of the questions, and a couple of them said, okay, who's got their phone calculators? You can calculate this out, but no searching for other answers. It was good. Hopefully we'll have some more like that.
Yeah, those are good. Those are the ones that I just never do any well at. Let's see. Anybody getting any diving in? Have you heard of anybody? I mean, Kevin obviously got some in
this week, but that has been buoyed. The line, they've got the buoy line down. They got a down line from the buoy line to the wreck. There's more of the wreck exposed this year. There's actually dead eyes you can find on it now. Other sections have been opened up, and a couple of the older ones are covered in sand. You can tell the newer places because there's no quaggers on them. So that looks like something people should go out and take a look at right now while the looking's good. They had like 15, 20 feet on it the other day. And of course, you've seen the video on the Wheeler yet?
Video on the Wheeler?
Most of us have not dove that since the 70s. We went out and relocated it. It's in 22 feet of water, all 200 and some odd feet of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it used to be covered in sand. It's not covered again. So it's well worth a dive. So now if you go out to Michigan City, you can dive the Sagatuck. You got the breakwater, and then you got the Wheeler. So you can get 3 dives in there out, just even out of the harbor, and you're only a couple of miles away on the piers if the weather kicks up. So people have been out there, Kevin and them have been out there scrounging around for the wrecks for sure. But here it is, almost August. And how many people haven't even been on a wreck yet? Oh, and they're going, the 29th is when they're going to head up towards the Mackinac.
Oh,
They'll be
okay.
up there, depending on who shows up, a week, maybe 2 weeks.
Retired people.
Jim's already got a full boat. I think, Karen is trying to get hers squared away so she can go up there, and there'd be a couple of spots on her boat. But she's been having those trials and tribulations with her outdrive.
Oh. Yeah, she's not been having good luck with that.
Yeah. So, and we've had our Thankful Tuesdays. Sass has got his Wednesday dives. So there's the availability if you want to get out there and get wet with people.
Yep. Those are good points.
Yeah. I did dive the last one I did for Schaefer Lake. The only muddies we had were our Facebook muddies from Florida. They came up, they were diving with me. And the other Facebook muddy, Amy from California, she came out again and dove with me. So that's been fun. And I think the next dive is going to be in the river if the damn rain stops. It muddied up again. I mean, we had over 2 inches of rain this week.
Yeah, we needed it. My yard went from brown to kind of growing.
Yeah, but the river went black again and the current increased. So maybe by next weekend it'll be better.
Very good. You have a dive safety story or item you'd like to cover?
The topic is called Everything a Diver Already Knows. Because you do. Key items are: be involved with your dive planning. Continue your diving education. Find a buddy and get to know him or her. Find a local professional dive store. Update your CPR and your first aid skills. You can never tell when you're going to need them. Equip yourself properly. Your equipment is your lifeline underwater. Ensuring your gear is maintained and working properly is crucial to a safe dive. So make sure you inspect your gear before every dive and review your safety equipment. Make sure the gear is easy to use, adjustable, suitable for the type of diving you're going to plan on doing. And if you're rent gear that you're familiar with and you know how to use. And don't forget to use that pre-dive checklist. Now, everybody knows again, skills to practice before diving. How's your equalizing going? How about your mask clearing? What your hand signals you're going to be using? It's always a good practice to practice your skills before doing any kind of serious diving. Always, 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 number one, buoyancy control. Adjusting your weight, your gear fit, removing and replacing weight systems. You know how to deploy and stow your new gear, such as surface marker buoy. You got a finger reel or a hand reel, and have you used them to find out, can you use them? And did you review your out-of-air procedures with your buddy, especially if you're doing any kind of deep diving? Okay, you dive. Before you get into water, always a good idea to double check your equipment and work with your buddy or dive master to plan all the aspects of the dive. Get any unclear instructions explained. Become familiar with the site, the entry points and exit points, either from a boat or from the shore. And what's your emergency action plan? What if you had separated? What if you're on the boat and somebody's missing? Had you thought about it? What are you going to do? Determine when and how you'll end the dive with your buddy, and then do so. And of course, key one. And the reason people die is ain't got no air. So manage your air. During every dive, monitor your air by keeping an eye on your gauge. One of the regular things and best things you can do to stay safe. And your buddy should be doing the same. Sure you have enough air for your dive, and always leave enough air for a return, a safe return, a minimum of 1/3. And how about that little item about, did you ensure your air was on before you dropped off the boat? If not, you're in for a big surprise. While diving, check your gauge all the time. Make a complete stop for safety or decompression with at least 500 psi remaining. Plan your dive your plan. And it's not a bad idea to talk about how the dive went after the dive. When you're sitting up there having a Coke or out to the local restaurant, BSing about what you did. What did you learn? What did you do right? What could have you done better? Stay safe out there.
All good points.
And nothing you didn't already know.
Is that the official recommendation? 1/3 your air.
That's the way I was always taught. One third, you go whatever you're going to do. 1/3 you get back, and you've always got a reserve.
Yep.
But almost nobody I know does that unless they're doing deep diving.
Right.
And then when we're shallow water, we come up with a couple of 100 pounds, but we're talking 10, 15 feet. We're never more than 200 feet from shore. You know, in a way that gives you a false sense of security when you go to the Havana, or you go to the Rockaway, which is 70 feet, or you go on something that's 120 feet. You don't want to do the same thing. That's why I keep saying, plan the dive and plan for what happens if. So There's absolutely nothing wrong with third down, a third up, a third reserve.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard it for deep, and especially for, like wreck dives, but I didn't know that was the general recommendation. But I think it used to be
the caving thing. Remember, third in, third out, third reserve.
Yeah.
And again, it's like whenever I am diving like that deeper, or used to, I always got a bailout. My best regulators on my bailout. If I need something, I want the best I got.
Yeah. So
not to say my other one's not good, but
yeah. So if I'm on Havana, and I go down with probably just a hair over 3,000, when I look and I'm within a stone's throw of 1,000, that's when I'd start to head up.
You really should be. And again, if you got flat weather, you had viz, and you know as well as I do, if you've got visibility, it's psychologically better, and people compensate better when you can look up and see the boat. You know what I'm saying? Yep. It's when it's dark and black and it's like, what? Yeah. It adds to that tendency to panic.
Yeah, I agree. You got to give yourself some more time. And we're probably doing it. I'm just trying to think because a third on some dives seems like a lot, but yeah, it's not uncommon. I've come up with 1,500. It just depends on what the dive is, what the plan is. Is that getting cold or? But
how many people have come up with 200 pounds in their tank? 200,
you're
without a bailout.
Yeah, on 200, is that really 200 or is that 50? I mean, you don't. There gets to be a point with how much do you trust that gauge? Is it calibrated to that low level? And that might be a good exercise to do next time we have a pool dive. Would be, okay, let's sit at the bottom. Let's have some bailouts for everybody, and let's breathe the tank down and see what it feels like. What did your gauge read when it stopped giving you air or a comfortable amount of air?
Well, then you just take an 80 down with, several 100 pounds in it with your bailout, and then do it. You don't want to sit down there and breathe the
Well,
whole
yeah.
3,000
Yeah,
pounds.
if you're in a
I mean, you're
pool,
gonna be bored.
yeah,
You're gonna be bored out of your gourd.
bring that novel with you and start reading it. But
Yeah.
Okay. So do we have anything we want to plug?
Well, I'm going to Oshkosh Sunday, and I may be back Thursday.
Wow. Okay. Oh,
This is my big hurrah for the year, is going to Oshkosh.
yeah. Well, that's fun. You get to see stuff. Anything going to be new there that maybe hasn't been there previous
They're
years?
going to have the F-35 there doing some demo. Last year when I was there, they had a stealth guy come over that wasn't planned, which was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was a female pilot.
Yeah.
But came in low and slow, and everybody said, "What the hell is that doing here?" And then she kicked it in the butt, went straight up until you couldn't see it anymore.
So what they need to do
It was cool.
is they need to have like a Falcon rocket land or something. Now that'd be something.
No, that would be good. That would be good.
Yeah, I'm sure there's about a dozen different regulations that wouldn't allow that.
Well, sometimes you can always beg for forgiveness as opposed to permission.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it was good and successful, nobody's going to bitch about it.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead. I think it's that time of the show. So are you ready?
I'm sitting down.
Yeah. So in honor of our rainy weather we had, I've got one I think it's appropriate. A traveler was walking along the side of a road in Arizona, hitchhiking on a dark night in the middle of a thunderstorm. Time passed slowly and no vehicles went by. It was raining so hard he could barely see his hand in front of his face. Suddenly he saw a car approaching, moving slowly and appearing ghost-like in the rain. It slowly and silently crept towards him and stopped, terrified. Too scared to think of jumping out and running, the guy saw the car was approaching a sharp curve. And still too scared to jump out, he started to pray and beg for his life. He was certain the ghost car would run off the road and into the river and he would surely drown. But just before the curve, a shadowy figure appeared out of the window. Hand reached in and turned the steering wheel, gliding the car safely around the bend. Then just as silently, the hand disappeared through the window and the hitchhiker was again alone. Paralyzed with fear, the guy watched the hand reappear every time they reached a curve. Finally, the guy, frightened nearly to death, all he could take, jumped out of the car and ran through the storm to the nearby town. Wet and shocked, he went into a lighted tavern and with a voice quivering, ordered 2 shots of whiskey, and then shaken, he told everybody about a supernatural experience. Silence came over those listening, and everybody got goosebumps. They realized the guy was sober and telling the truth. The sound of the storm continued outside. About a half an hour later, 2 guys walked in the bar, and one says to the other, "Hey, look, Jose, there's that idiot who rode in the car that we were pushing in the rain."
That's good. I like that.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Sometimes that's exactly what it is. Things are not always what they seem.
Yeah. So on that note, go out there and get wet.
And stay safe.
Every week?